So first of all, I would like to thank everybody for joining us today. My name is Rebecca. I work for Arte, which is the organization that is leading the Parallel platform. And Parallel is a project that aims to bring new names into the art world. So it's a big platform that gathers members, institutions from all over Europe, from museums to galleries to magazines, all connected to contemporary photography. And we try to link them with new artists and new curators, and we prepare exhibitions. This year, unfortunately, due to the coronavirus, our plans were a little bit, how to say, different. They were upside down. So we adapted our exhibitions to an online format, and we are launching them in this new way. So today we are presenting the Broken Secrets exhibition. We are here with the curator Javiera Cadiz and the artists. And the exhibition is part of the Fondazione Modena Arte Visive in Italy, in Modena. Unfortunately, they were not able to join us today. Just to say that the entire platform and the exhibitions are co-founded by the Creative Europe program from the European Union. And saying so, I won't last any longer. And let's listen to our curator and the artists.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us in this presentation. It's such an honor to present to you the artists of Broken Secrets, who we've been working with together for the last few months. It's been an incredible project. I don't want to get into specifics about the curatorial concept and such at the moment. I would rather the artists speak and kind of relay the message or the ideas behind their project, as well as their research, which truly has been a magnificent process to watch and to witness. And then after they've spoken, and after Marco Comastri, who's the designer of the catalogue, has explained in detail what we've done with the catalogue, I'll give a brief word. But I think we can hand it over to Gorgs.
Good evening, everyone. I'm so happy to take part of this amazingly curated exhibition, Broken Secrets, and honor to be first because it's alphabetical order, I guess. So yeah, maybe Javiera, you could share the screen, and I can kind of give some insights of my part. Full screen. So my project is called Motherland Far Beyond the Polar Circle, which is a part of Broken Secrets, but in my conceptual project is a chapter of the trilogy in which I reflect on the quiet, juxtaposed and historically distant landscapes of the land, and also traumatically recorded broken secrets in history on my way to Igarka, which is in Siberian Russia, 163 kilometers north of the Arctic Circle. So my mom was born in Igarka in 1952. On June 14, 1941, my grandma was deported to Siberia. She lived there until the summer of the 1956 and hasn't spoken about it ever since. There was just a sense of wisdom and misunderstanding about the past, much like the landscapes that hold this dark and silent history, and testimonies frozen in time. I would say frozen in eternal time, because in the polar region, there is this eternal frost. Basically, the time freezing is same like photography, and we are talking about the specific moment. So maybe we can go to the next slide. So this is the photograph which I found in our family archive, and this was the starting point kind of this project, because the image was taken by a photographer, and I couldn't even find out who was this person, but in this condition back in the days in Siberia, it was quite difficult to arrange a kind of this settlement. But I was quite happy to see this photograph, and because it was taken by the Christmas tree, that's why I decided to go on this period of time on winter from 2019 and 2020 to be in this region, to explore the location and people, and also kind of include this Christmas tree in the photographs. So the Christmas tree becomes as a unifying element throughout the images, similar to cross in its holiness that I will show later. So it connects visually to the image of my mom and her twin brother by this Christmas tree as a family celebration, even though they are trapped in Siberia, but at the same time, it has much more deeper connection. So if you can go to the next slide. So as you see, here is this image with the Christmas tree, and it goes throughout the project. And actually, what is quite important to mention, that the Christmas tree as a decorated tree was originated in Northern Europe. The custom was developed in medieval Livonia, which is present-day Estonia and Latvia, and the first written record of decorated Christmas tree comes from Riga, Latvia, in 1510. It also represents winter, holiness, and birth of Jesus, as well as family celebration. It is a sacred symbol, as in 2004, Pope John Paul called the Christmas tree as a symbol of Christ. This very ancient custom, he said, exalts the value of life. As in winter, what it evergreen becomes a sign of undying life, and it reminds kind of Christians of the tree of life. And if you go to the next image, and in the portraiture, I was mostly interested to show uncanny atmosphere, their hopes and dreams towards the future and the longing for the recent past. In most of the image, I included this Christmas tree. Apart from the Christmas tree, I was kind of focusing on this circular polar light, which can be seen in this photograph. And the circles in the image represent polar night and winter at the same time. They appear in other images within the image at night from the falling snowflakes, from the condensation in the film caused by a cold weather condition, and from the circular LED lighting as it's seen in this image. If you go to the next slide. So basically, this is the story of a town which was built upon the bones of the Soviet prisoners, basically upon the mass graveyards. In the photographs, the city and place itself almost becoming a graveyard, a cemetery throughout the symbols and elements taken from the landscape that represent the crosses that connects the image. So this is another unifying element throughout the images. You can find these elements. So if we go to the next. And very important was mapping and retracing the whole journey as it starts from Latvia. On the first kind of stop is through Smolensk, from where my great-grandfather is coming from, but he was deported from Estonia somehow, but that was his homeland. And the big stop was in Krasnoyarsk, where I also met some of the deported people from Latvia who had roots from this broken secret historical part. And then the final destination is this place called Igarka. And when I reached this location, for me it was also quite important to understand the present time and pay tribute for those people who are still living there and for those who sadly didn't. And this is kind of talking about the presentness and the past, and how important is mapping and the map itself in this project. I think Nagar Yagmayan, who has a beautiful project, and he will talk more about map and about her experience throughout the project. I'm quite curious to hear her story.
Thanks, Gerg. Hi, everyone. I'm so happy that I'm here with you to talk about my photos. Before I start, I want to say that I like the last picture that we saw, the map. Although it looks simple, but when we know that there is an emotional and deep story behind it, it really interests me. And like Gerg's, I started my story with my project with a story of a journey from Iran to India. Maritime trade was prevalent from the Persian Gulf to the Indian West Coast for decades. And these journeys led to exchanges, cultural exchanges between Iran and India, and also due to the long layover on, at India harbors, it led to marriage between Indian women and Iranian men as well, and formed families with mixed background. When this traditional trade faded away, these families faced with difficulties, and they struggle with new troubles like separation and displacement. I was fascinated by this story, and I wanted to work on it, but I didn't want to focus on these long voyages and talk about sailors' skills or their experience because it was told before. But I wanted to pay attention to the story of the emotion and feeling that these people cope with over years, suppressed feelings and overlooked one like love, loss, their hopes and their desires. And I also wanted to search for a inner or a deeper concept and question meaning of home and identity in this project. So I used symbolic photos and to broaden the meaning and put this concept into my picture and represent them. To get close to, sorry, can we see photos, Javiera? Yeah. To get close to what I wanted, I needed to establish a good connection and be a good listener and build up trust and let these people share their passions and their pains with me. Because if they barely talk about it, it's not easy to bring up family issues in a small and religious society like villages in this region. We talked about their wishes, their dreams, and their memories. Sometimes they remember things with details, but most of the time their memories were vague and unclear. And it seemed that they are restoring their memories or even sometimes recreating them. And it gave me the chance to re-narrate this story and added what I took. People in my photos, they are not necessarily depicted as themselves. Rather, there is a larger image of person who belong to this society. And yeah, when we talked about their dreams, and I was wondering that in which land do they dream? Is it their motherland or their fatherland, or which memory do they carry with themselves to their new life? And I depicted pictures. We see them standing in front of us with closed eyes, but they are awake, and we don't know if they are hiding something, if they are dreaming, are they concealing secrets, or maybe simply they are blinking. And these are the questions that I'm playing with. in this project with a group of images from portraits to landscape or found objects, I want to invite the viewer to come with me to the journey into this mystic quiet land and explore it and find these fragments and link them together. I made a dummy with photos of this project. It contains 42 pictures of this series. You can take a look if you want. It is in our exhibition's website. And to wrap it up, I want to say that I believe that sometimes it is important to disclose and untold the stories, because to make change, we cannot stay in the shadow of secrecy. It can be a personal story like mine, or a political one like the one that George does in his project.
Thank you, Nagar. I think there are many ways in which we can respond to the shadow of secrecy, as you say. And actually, I think one of the things I like the most about this exhibition is the diversity of responses, where photojournalistic responses sit next to more emotional responses, and I think it works very well. And I think personally, in my work for this exhibition, I started out from maybe, you could say, a more journalistic standpoint, in the sense that it was very research-based in quite a traditional form, but ended up in quite an emotional one. I felt deeply moved by the manual that the project revolves around, and I think maybe we can see some images of the work while I speak. The Human Exploitation Resource Training Manual was the name of the manual, and that's where the work takes its title from. And this was a textbook that was used as a textbook for students at the School of Americas, which was a US military academy that trained Latin American soldiers. And it was originally set up in Panama in 1946, and it still exists today, although it's been moved to Georgia in the United States. And Javiera, you can just flick through them as we go along at your own pace. But more than 60,000 Latin American soldiers were trained at this military academy. And in total, 11 dictators from the 70s and the 80s in Latin America attended this school, as well as death squad leaders and drug traffickers. But despite this truly shocking list of human rights abusing alumni, the US Army identified these men as a few bad apples. So the school was really concerned with, well, the manual was more concerned with teaching interrogation techniques. So the manual is all about how to abduct an individual, how to interrogate them. It advocates the use of torture, illegal execution, psychological and physical torture. And I think one of the things that was, for me, that I chose to focus on was, and something that interested me, was this kind of sterileness of the document. It has a kind of bureaucratic aspect. It talks very objectively about very shocking things. And I think this is something that my lecturer on my MA, Edmund Clark, would call the banality of power, which I think is actually something that Gorg's project also highlights. But I started dissecting sections from the text of the manual, and I began arranging them next to photographs. And now the photographs all come from the University of Milwaukee Photography Archive. And they were all taken by two photographers, Isaiah Bowman and Eugene Vernon Harris. And they were using photography to chart and map and document Latin America on behalf of the US Foreign Service in the early 20th century. But the images have been edited and dissected and cut up in the same way that the text has. And I really liked the way that Javiera explained this process in her curatorial statement essay as a kind of repetitive action of protest, of cutting and pasting. But I think something which this exhibition highlights well is how photography can reveal, but also reinforce secrecy. And the photographers in my work were using photography as a kind of colonial tool. It was a way of gaining power over the land and its people, which is something that is very wrapped up in the history of photography. And what the work attempts to do is kind of rearrange the material in a way that challenges, criticizes, and reframes the complexity of geopolitical issues in the region, in Latin America, and the role that the United States have played in that. And to try and rescue somehow the debris of history, the debris of its history. Someone once said to me that it was a bit like a kind of damaged and twisted memory that needed to be reassembled. And I think that's a very an accurate way of analyzing the work, but it tries to not do this through emotional blackmail. You know, you don't necessarily see shocking imagery. I mean, the text itself is shocking, but it tries to do this by creating an informative and an emotional encounter with the viewer that challenges them. And I think that is an aspect of my work which leads very nicely onto Yuxin's work, in the sense that it's a kind of encounter. It's a challenging encounter that's informative and also emotional.
Yeah. Yeah, first of all, thanks everyone for being with us on this event. And it's great to share our work with all of you. And I think, George, you are quite right in terms of not being, the work is not doing a blackmail. It's more about kind of provoke thinking and an emotional sort of encounter with the viewer. And also I find this interesting parallel in you using the historical textbook and using image archives, you know, from history, and me for my project, Instagram project. The starting point is actually, well, both from the images from the Instagram, but also a book from the 19th century that I came across in Charing Cross Library. And, you know, these kind of work, the approach of working with existed visual and textual material and to create sort of a new perspective, I suppose, on the issues of our concerns are something I'm thinking, you know, quite interesting, a parallel between our work. Javiera, if you can share the slides, because I think I quite like, before I talk about this project itself, I quite like to briefly mention one aspect of my research of making this work, which is this book I just said. It's called Chinese Characteristics. It's written by an American missionary in the late 19th century, while he was traveling, living in China for quite a long time. And this book summarized the Chinese into 20-some characteristics. And when I first saw it, I was quite struck and kind of surprised in a way that the way he summarized this vast and very complex population in a vast land into such a neat way into 20-some characteristics. So I bought the book and read it. And then I came across this little paragraph about his observation of how local people sleep. Essentially, he was kind of shocked by local people could sleep in really noisy environment on a brick, use the brick as a pillow, not rather than a kind of feather soft pillow. Or he's shocked by, people can just sit on a sort of vehicle and in quite public space and just let it be and sleep really well and not really bothered by any noise or be bothered by sort of being seen like that, sleeping. And in the meantime, as I was, I came across quite a lot of images on Instagram that also people mostly from the West, lives or traveling there, they are taking pictures and sharing on Instagram. And one of the images is, not one, okay, there's quite a few images like this one, which you are seeing now, is, people is sleeping on their motorbike in public space in a quite unusual way. So I was really struck by this similarity that, more than 100 years ago, people were doing the same thing, and now people are still doing the same thing. But in a funny way, later I really think, how people sleep in that society, not the majority, but there are people doing so. How they are doing this is not really the point here. The point is why over 100 years time, how people, from the West, not the local people, how they understand the local people remains the same. Essentially, it is viewing the world from the West, the white centric viewpoint. Because a lot of things people might be thinking is completely insane or absurd. It's only because you're viewing from a specific, viewpoint. And so that's really one of my drive to make this work, not necessarily to tell you how to think about these things, but I really want to work with these Instagram images to repurpose them or to deconstruct them so that they could be read in a different way. So far in this exhibition, I am showing two work from the Instagram project. The first one is called Provocative Jokes Deconstructed. What I'm doing here is, these are the photographs that from the Instagram, and they were quite kind of dirty or provoking English on their clothes. And these photos were taken in a way that, people and their face and their body are such essential part of these visual jokes, which I find really problematic. So I took all these, visual and linguistic parts of these posts away as a way to suggest, what if there's nothing on their t-shirt? What's there to see? And what if you see all these fragments of internet culture? How do you make sense of those provoking words and images? Without these words seems to be mundane, nothing much to see. So that's the approach I'm taking with this, which is essentially to deconstruct and invite the viewer themselves to figure out how do they make sense of these fragments. And the other work from this project is called Quirky Science Questions. Here, what I'm doing is I'm using the images themselves from Instagram, but I worked with a math teacher to co-create those math science questions, like school exam-like types of questions, really to invite, a very new framework under which we can see the image from very different ways. There'll be question about sort of physics, question about math, things you wouldn't really sort of, use those kind of images for school exams. And in a way, it's quite nice to diversify, the school questions. And lastly, I just want to say this is the project really gets me to think how it can actually exist in many different forms. This project would be, worksheets on big tables in exhibition, and the provocative jokes deconstructed would be theater backdrops in real space. But I'm also building a mini site to present them in a digital way, as you can see on our website. Yeah, I mean, it's great to I think, who was it said like this, what I will love about this show is how different each of us, our work are relate to the broken secret. And I mean, we've been working with Javiera really, for a long time, really enjoy the process, including working on the catalog. and apparently it's all coming together really, really nice. So really looking forward to see it and hear more about it.
Javiera, we cannot hear you.
Sorry, I was just saying hi to Marco, and Marco, you can take it from here. Thank you.
And Marco, you need to put your sound on as well, sorry.
Okay, we're fine. So yeah, thank you, Yuxin, and it's been a pleasure to meet the faces behind the artworks, and it's been a pleasure also to work with Javiera and the staff at Parallel and Fondazione Modena Arte Visive on this project. And maybe we can see the catalog. Okay, here's the catalog. It's a paperback. It's 70 centimeters wide and 24 tall. The graphic the graphic concept, it's and the layout, it's quite simple. I think as a graphic designer, my job is to support the artists and their vision and not to compete with them. So I tried to find a way to put something from everyone's project in the catalog. So the texture of the cover and the color in the table of contents are inspired by Negar's photographs, by the texture and the colors in Negar's photographs. You can go, Javiera. Okay, thank you. And as for the statement, artist statement and their bio, I tried to find a way to reflect the concept of the broken secrets, of the unveiling of a secret by interleaving a translucent page, so that you can't, opening the page, you can't read, and you have to do some work to read the biography and the statement. And this was inspired by the overarching concept of the catalog, but also by George's interventions on the photographs, where he was overlaying text and images. You can, okay. And as for the typography, because all the projects are so rooted in history, I thought I had to do some homeworks. So I found the inspiration in Georg's and Yuxin projects. So for the serif typeface used in the main text, I use Literaturnaya by Paratype. This is an interpretation, a digital interpretation of a typeface of the typeface used in Soviet Union between the 50s and the 90s, before of the dissolution of the USSR. And as you can see, yes, this paper, this journal was in Georg research, and I tried to use a more contemporary typeface for the other text and for the logo of the catalog. And this was inspired by Yuxin work, which is very, I think, contemporary and digital. So I tried to find a typeface to reflect this aspect of her works. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marco. And the way, we've set it up, of course, in art history. I have a background in art history, and you always learn about different ways of analyzing art or of analyzing exhibitions. I've always been of the idea that art should be democratic, it should be accessible, and people shouldn't feel kind of ostracized from any space that holds art. And I feel like this exhibition, Broken Secrets, has really been a beautiful conversation between the artists and I. You can hear me, right?
Yes.
Oh, okay. It's been a really beautiful conversation with the artists, and also it's been a dialogue with different countries. We're all coming from Riga, Iran, or Tehran rather, Shanghai. I'm in Barcelona. George is in London. Yuxin also. We all come from very different backgrounds, and kind of unraveling this idea of Broken Secrets has been very much political, but also very rooted in the everyday, in our everyday existence. So sorry, what I was saying earlier about analyzing art, it can often be a very heady kind of understanding of art. You can look at it in a formal sense. You can look at line, color, depth, the formal qualities, or you can understand it in terms of the societal impact, or who painted it or took a photograph, why they did that, under what circumstances. And I think I opted for the former in this conversation, because what we wanted was for you to see the artist's work in isolation, and hopefully in Lisboa, in Lisbon, when the exhibition actually takes place, then the work is somehow modified, because each artwork will be speaking to whoever is set alongside the other. But really, it's I think the artist's work is of huge merit. Incredibly talented artists that have made me see things in a different light, and definitely the unraveling of secrets, how they can liberate, how they can be withheld, how sometimes they contain dignity, and how sometimes they can distract. In terms of Gorg's work, speaking about the 1941 deportations, the silence that ensued and continues to ensue. I think that while all of the projects are very much rooted in the history, they are so contemporary. And it sounds kind of a bit cliche to say, but that really is the truth. When you go into these spaces, and Gorgs, I'm thinking about your trip to Igarca, and how the remnants of your family history was very much alive, and you kind of unburied that. It forms very much part of who you are, but also it forms part of the political landscape in which you tread. Negar as well, your beautiful stories and kind of speaking to locals, unraveling the maritime trade, taking a more political look. Something that always caught my attention about your work was the closed eyes, and what that really saying. Is that person aware that you're taking a photograph? Do they agree? Don't they agree? Are they looking? Are they watching? Are they being watched? There are all these kind of elements that I think your work deconstructs and exposes. Whether it's the portraits or the landscapes, George, sorry, you know, I was very much intrigued, having been born in Chile and having Argentinian family and being raised in South Africa. Your work caught my eye because you're dealing with Latin American soldiers, and how, you know, through collage work and through the amalgamation of the work in and of itself, the images of the two photography from the archive, and also the stories behind what actually happens to these soldiers, how they are reminiscent of los desaparecidos, which are in Argentina as they are in many different parts of Latin America. And lastly, Yuxin, you've always taken us into the very present, of course, using Instagram as a platform. I'm keeping tabs on time because I don't want to go over time. But you very much root us into the present. And I loved how you kind of, through all your research, and I've always said this about you, is that your work is very much, the process is very much rooted in the storytelling based on the research, because you've got this, you contemplate. And it struck me because I hadn't seen the relation between the research bit and the man sleeping on the bike. And this is the thing, that with this exhibition, I've seen the pictures and I've seen the images over and over again, and every time they seem new. And there's always a kind of tweak or a secret that I find, which is amusing. And it's also, you know, relevant of pain, because they're telling us about social injustices. They're telling us about racism. They're telling us about the kind of political injustices that continue to happen and we're experiencing today. So I think this was just a call, you know, the project in and of itself is today just a website. And thank you again, Parallel, and everyone that worked towards that. But it makes me think that art is accessible. Art is not abstract. It is deeply political, and it calls us into action. And with the project, I think the richness was that there was this intersectionality and a multidisciplinarity about it. I don't know, using physics and maths and the research and the science, and, you know, unraveling, going through the archives. And yeah, I think it was a huge learning process. And yeah, so I think that's what I've got to say. I invite you to, if I can just screen share, to see the website, because you'll have a look over here. Just to go through it, you've got Broken Secrets, and you are able to see the work of the different artists. You've got about what Broken Secrets is about. You know, you've got the statement. You've also got all the artists' work. This is my essay and the curatorial. You can see details about the catalogue. And lastly, I'd like to just say thank you. Because as we know, there's, you know, a project like this isn't made by one person, it's made by many. And Anna Kaiser Rastenberg and Nomaduma Masilela, who were my mentors, were incredibly inspiring, and they provided guidance. Also I'm just going to highlight them over here, the artist mentors were also so kind and so generous with their times in kind of taking our artists through different processes. Claudia, who unfortunately couldn't be here today, and the whole of the Fondazione Modena Arte Visive team, Alice, Jessica, Irene, Lorenzo, Luca, and also Marco Comastri for the catalogue, Alfonso for the website, Nuno and Rebecca from Procurate, Landskrona Photo Ireland, the Robert Capa Contemporary Centre. You all provided homes for us. And of course, the Parallel European photo-based platform. And last but not least, to the artists who have yeah, just been so incredible and inspiring. And as I put in the acknowledgements, your work kind of helps us propel us forward. So thank you. Rebecca?
Sorry, guys, I was allowing some last people to enter. Some last people to enter the room. So before we finish, Javiera wanted to offer some catalogs to some people here in the audience. So I set up a wheel, just a second. So this is our Wheel of Fortune today. I will share the entire names and we will randomly pick someone. If your name, yeah, it's a lot of fun. As your name appears, so Maria Donata y Mario, please send me a message, a private message on the chat with your email so we can contact you about this. And we go for the second one?
Yeah.
So F53214260. You can also send us an email. And finally, but not the least, Federica Lavarini. So congratulations to you all. You will receive a catalog of the Broken Secrets exhibition.
And I wonder if, Rebecca, can we ask if there are any questions or comments? And congratulations to the winners. I'll post them to you from Barcelona.
Yes. So yes, we can open to the public if you have some questions. Anyone? Or comments? Have you checked the exhibition? Did you like it? Some people are writing on the chat box actually. Some people saying, bravo, all great, congratulations to all. Wonderful project, amazing project, perfect. Yes, really impressive. I think that's for the Wheel of Fortune.
Okay, that's great. Well, I think if there are no questions, Rebecca, then we can close off. And
yes.
Our contact details are there. So if you think of anything, feel free to contact us, email us, or whatever you like.
So let's just give word to Nuno for the final information.
Hello. It was an amazing presentation, and it's really interesting seeing how it's being developed, all this online presence. We have started the different online presentations in August. Now we still have one more exhibition next Thursday. With the work that was created by Esther Dossi. And I just want to say that it's amazing following online, even if it's virtual, all the works produced by the artists, by you, and how Javiera curated and make a sense and make a link and create a story between the different narratives that have. And so it's really a pleasure to follow and to see the result now in this time virtual. And I hope, in November, we're going to have here another opportunity to see it in Rio, physically in Lisbon during the parallel review. After, just to close, we still have let's say the parallel award from the second cycle that it was also suggested. So it will close in the end of September with the work created by Kale Garrido. So we still have have links with the different exhibitions, the one from the third cycle,
the ones the work from the second cycle. So it's still have the different layers and the different steps that it's make part of the parallel. And well, just want to thank you all. Thank you also the audience. Thank you Fondazione Modena, one of the members that host well, whatever this virtual exhibition, the team from Parallel that hope to build the project, and also the support from the Creative Europe that allowed us to create these different steps of the projects. Hope to see you next week, in the 2 next weeks, in the different online activities that we still have. Well, thank you all, and congratulations, it was really good.
Thank you. There's just a question about purchasing the catalogue. On the website, you'll see under catalogue, you can purchase it from Fondazione Arte Visive, and it's available for €12. You can also contact me and I can send you a PDF of the catalogue. Of course, it's not the same thing because it doesn't have the layers that Marco Comastri came up with, but you can request it. Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Ciao. Do we have a debrief?
If you guys want. I'm just collecting the emails from the winners. We are not live
perfect.
anymore.
Okay. Will you share them to me and then I can post them from home?
Definitely.
Thanks, Rebecca. That was so cool that you found that. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
How did that go?
It went really well. I mean,
Yeah?
everyone had done their pieces by the end. It was like 45 minutes. We'd all spoken, you'd spoken, and Marco had spoken. It was perfect. I mean, it was really,
I think it was pretty quickly.
Yeah, concise. I think there's a lot of these things can
really,
drag on.
I was really impressed of the design, of the way he explained all
Yeah.
the details.
It was really nice to hear him say that. I didn't know that he'd based the design
Yes.
on all of our work in that way.
Yeah, so he's actually got a full-time job, and we would meet on the weekends to kind of discuss the work and look at all of your works, and he kept drawing inspiration from that. So it was really such a cool process.
Yeah, it was really interesting to see.
But I think it's seeing all the other talks. This one was very well rehearsed, so it goes very smooth and very. The links are very well prepared, and we have we have a lot of people following in Zoom. So I think it's the moment that we have more people following us during the Zoom. And so I think it works. It worked well, very well, and it's also, of course, interesting to see the apart from your works that it's a clear, of course, a clear goal to see your works, but it's also interesting to see how the graphics interpret and create from our from your works and from your backgrounds, and how he create from that. And I think it's really interesting the way the letters appear and all the things. So it's a pity that it's not in our hands now. We have to wait a bit, but it's really interesting to see how this developing in the different directions and with the different inputs coming from different ways. So it's quite surprising. Very well.
How many people did what was the maximum?
I think it was over
40.
42 I saw one time.
Yeah.
42 maximum.
And in the
100 views on Facebook.
Oh, wow.
Or no, 140.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's a good number.
Yeah, but it tends to go up. So people that didn't see it in live, that will see them later on. So it tends to go up in terms of numbers.
So is it already in a Facebook or not yet?
Yes, it goes live on Facebook as well all the time.
Okay, so
people can follow it there.
Oh, that's nice. So it's
You're
already
still live on Facebook, Gorg.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
So we should open champagne now.
Yeah. Why have you done that already?
I've got wine.
Okay, let me get something stronger.
Oh wait, I'm gonna try and call Yuxin. I'm gonna call
Javiera?
Yeah.
Only one person left the email for the book. So.
Oh no. Do we have their names? Maybe I can track them down.
So guys.
Not a full name. We have Donata and Marco.
Donata Marco.
Donata y Marco.
Y Marco.
Which one should I go for? What do you think? Is this one I have here?
And the other was a weird name, only numbers, so I don't even know it's a real person.
Yeah.
Gorgs. Go for the black one.
This is the Black Balsam Latvian. It's for 100 years, the special designed one. But this is from Italy. Because
yeah, do the Italian one.
I think so. This goes first, right?
Yeah. I'm just telling Yuxin to join if she can. Is it okay, Rebecca and Nuno, if we stay here a bit longer? Can we keep it on, or?
Yeah. You can keep it on, but we're still recording. No, we stop.
You stop recording.
Okay.